Okay. Anyone have any questions before we get started? No? Okay. Awesome. So we have a lot to go over today. I promise I will give you guys a couple of breaks. We have lunch at some point. I want this to be interactive. If you have questions, ask, all that kind of stuff. And for those of you who have been to this before, Jenny, I know you've been to my buyer boot camps before. If there's anyone else, if you have things or just your experiences that you have all had already, feel free to chime in, feel free to add things. This is my perspective, right? This is my view and my vantage point on working with buyers. That is what we're talking about, right? We're not doing listings. Working with buyers. And so you may hear things from other people that are different. And that's great. We're all different. We're all independent contractors. There's usually no one way that you have to do something. There's a few things that there's only one way in order to be legally compliant. But for the most part, all of these things, real estate tends to be a mix of art and science. And so I want to be able to provide you some structure so that you can learn the structure and then make it your own. So, raise your hand if you have ever signed anything in your entire life without reading every single word of it. Okay. Exactly. We all have, right? Like I accept my iPhone terms and conditions, which are 400 pages without reading a single word. Our buyers are no different. Our buyers, especially ones that we have done a good job of developing trust with, which is one of our main jobs as real estate agents, our agents will, or our buyers will likely just sign away any form that we ask them to. It's our job not just to get those signatures, it's our job to make sure that the buyers understand what they're signing. And so I want to make sure that I go out over everything in a way that not only you can understand it, but in a way that you can also explain it to your buyers. Because that's, I think, one of the most important parts in working with buyers is helping them really understand the representation that they get with you. Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of statements and I want you to stand up if you think it's a fact and sit down, if stay sitting if you think it's a myth. Okay? This is the interactive part of the class. Okay. A buyer representation agreement means that the buyer has to buy a house from you. So stand if it's fact, stay sitting if it's a myth. Is this just peer pressure? No. Okay, who wants to tell me why they believe it's a myth? Yes.
Because I feel like although I don't necessarily have the answer to this, there's so many different ways that people can purchase homes that we don't even realize.
Yep. So just because you are working to represent the buyer, that does not mean that they have to buy a house from you. They're not committed to that. It doesn't mean that. Taylor.
But couldn't it also be true though? Because if they do want to buy a house, they have to do it through you because you're their agent.
There are ways to get out of an agreement if people need to get out of an agreement. So they're not required to buy a house from you.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will think that, like, if I sign this, does that mean I have to buy a house this year? Nope. It does not mean that. It means I am your committed person to help you navigate this process should you choose to purchase a home, which obviously that's why we're having the conversation. Hopefully they are choosing to purchase a home, but things happen. Life happens, all those kinds of things. So they're not committed to you buying a house and paying you. Okay, stand up for a fact, stay sitting if it's a myth. Every buyer should understand how agent compensation works before writing an offer. This is just peer pressure now.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to explain why they stood?
Oh.
Jenny?
Okay, say that again.
Yep, every buyer should understand how agent compensation works before writing an offer.
Well,
We don't
You can sit
want
down.
to be a surprise for them.
Mhm.
We want them to know how much did we charge.
Yeah.
Before they sign that dotted line.
Mhm.
And if for some reason the center do not want to pay the compensation, at least they know ahead of time.
Yeah.
No surprises.
No surprises. Yes, absolutely. Great. Okay, stand if it's. Why am I the only one getting confused with this? Okay, stand if it's a fact, sit if it's a myth. The buyer representation agreement only protects the agent. Okay, who is sitting and why? Does someone want to take this one?
I mean, I can say I'm sitting, but I don't know.
So you're sitting due to peer pressure.
Well, not, like, I don't believe it's a fact, but I don't think it's a myth, like I don't.
Okay, you want to hear more
More
from someone. You want to hear more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taylor,
It also protects the client,
say more.
because you're saying that you have a duty to help them and it's confidential and whatnot.
Yep. Anyone have anything else? No? Okay. Two more. You should encourage buyers to ask questions before signing. Stand if it's fact, stay sitting if it's a myth. Sandy, why'd you stand?
They definitely should know what they're signing and what they're getting into, for sure, this is a legal contract, they need to know their rights and our responsibility.
Taylor, why are you staying down?
I don't know, I think I thought about it a different way.
Okay, tell us how you thought about it. You can all sit down if you want.
Say,
Sure. You should encourage buyers to ask questions before signing.
no, you should, I just didn't process.
Okay, got it. It's early still, I understand. Okay, last one. Explaining the paperwork builds trust between the agent and the client.
Yes.
Okay, anyone want to explain this one?
If you know what you're talking about and you're confident in it, they're gonna trust you more.
Yep, absolutely. Great. Okay. It's a way to get us kind of up and moving and going. Okay, lots of paperwork, lots of good handouts to give you. I do have a something I want to make sure that I share. When you go into, many of you probably know this, but when you go into Transaction Desk, all of these forms are in Transaction Desk, so you can get all of them right in there. When you log into GRAR with your number and your password, and then you go into your account, and then you go into your Transaction Desk, your name is on those forms. When I go in to print all of these, my name is on these forms. Don't use the forms that have my name on them for your clients. They're not my clients, they're your clients. So you can either white it out if you want a hard copy or just go in and print your own, but I didn't cross off my name on all of them because I didn't do that, 'cause I'm a terrible person. So, okay. There is paperwork, most of you probably already know this, but there's paperwork. There's three ways that we're gonna divide the class today. The first way is during your buyer consultation. And the paperwork that goes into that. The second one is in writing an offer. And the third one is in once the offer is accepted. When you go into Transaction Desk and when you see, when you click onto create transaction and then you click into writing an offer, you're gonna see there are dozens and dozens of forms in there. There are forms that I'm gonna guess that there are forms that Scott, who has been doing this for 12 years, hasn't even used. There's a lot of forms in there. There are forms like, just in case, you never know, maybe in this one weird situation, you may need this. I'm not gonna print off all of those forms because that's ridiculous. And so instead what I did is printed out most of the most common ones. The ones that you are always gonna need and the ones that you're most likely going to. So this is not every single form that you need to see. You'll get a copy of today because there's a lot in there that you'll probably never use. When you first meet with a buyer, when you first have a buyer consultation and someone says, I want to buy a house, what do I need to do? Can you help me? There are 2 forms that need to be signed at that, and a third that I encourage you to have signed at that. Who has an idea about what one of those forms is?
Buyer agency.
Buyer agency, yep. Good, great. Buyer agency. And again, it has my name on it, but it will have your name on it. Buyer agency is one. Who has an idea what another form is that you should have done when you first meet with Taylor?
So, they already spoken. I don't remember what it's called. Yeah.
The one that you're looking, this one?
Is it this one? No, yeah, that's this one. That's it.
There's one other one.
Fair housing.
Fair housing.
Yeah.
Okay, here's your fair housing. And it probably has my name on it. Mhm. So let's go over these briefly so that you have an idea of what these are. Who can tell me what fair housing is? Or what the fair housing form is? And that's the one that says New York State Housing and Anti-Discrimination Disclosure Form. Taylor.
Yeah.
There it is, yep. Can't discriminate for or against your clients. It's outlined here, it's outlined in other places as well, it's really important. What could that look like?
Buyer discrimination.
Mhm.
Not showing your clients every place that will be offered to them. Because of a certain reason, class, race, sex. Whatever.
Yep. So deciding that a certain area has in the past predominantly been one religion, and your client is indicated that they want to see a home in there, and you say that you can't see that house. It's probably not the right house for them because they're from a different religion. That would be one example.
The school's something.
School districts, that's a big one. That's a tricky one. We cannot, it's not up to us to decide if a school district is good or bad. That is subjective criteria. There are objective ways to make determinations on that companies and organizations do. And you should encourage your buyer to explore all of those kinds of things on their own. But you can't make that decision because what a good school district would be for you may not be what a good school district is for them. And so saying you don't want to move here because it's a bad district, you can't say that. You can't give any kind of advice on this is a good district or a bad district. Any other ways that you could discriminate or examples of discrimination with buyers?
Not kind of piggybacking off of not showing them a house because you don't want to go to that area.
Yep.
Good one.
Is it discrimination, according to fair housing, if someone says they want to see a house and they don't qualify for it financially? Are you still obligated to show that house? If I qualify for 300,000, there's a $500,000 house, and I say, Cass, will you take me? I want to see this house. And you say, oh, I don't really know, that seems a little high, seems a little out of your budget. Is that discrimination for fair housing?
I think so. I feel like, yeah, I don't know.
Say more.
Just because situations can change, you don't know maybe everything you think you know about your client, so I don't know, maybe they have $200,000 for the way that they never told you about, I don't know. But who's to stop them from going and seeing a $500,000 house? I don't know.
Anyone else? Sandy.
The pre-qualification letter is a good starting point to stick with the
Mhm.
range of where they need to be at.
Mhm.
And then if they do have more money, you could have that conversation and maybe get more proof of funds.
Mhm. Mhm. It is a business decision, I would say. It is not a fair housing discrimination. If you want to, good morning. If you want to show houses that your buyers are not qualified for and have them get excited about something that they're not going to likely be able to afford in a very strong seller's market, that's a whole other class that we should talk about. You're absolutely right. People will say, I've qualified for X, and then their dream house comes up, and before you know it, they're somehow able to get a gift from a family member or figure out a way to get more money. Those are all not likely, those are all possibilities that could happen. That's not sticking with the pre-approval though, and the knowing what we know about houses and saying, we're not gonna spend time at this probably because you don't qualify for it financially based on what you've shown me is not a discrimination against fair housing. Let's talk a little bit about the agency form that I passed out. The first one, New York State disclosure form for buyer and seller. So who can explain what this form is used for?
Both parties in the contract understand who represents the.
It is really important that clients know who is representing them. It's important. Why? Well, why is it important?
It gets really sticky if you're on a team, you list the house and one of the numbers. Buys the house as the buy side, so it can get a little sticky like that.
Yeah, can be very sticky. It is one of the things. There was a huge lawsuit back in 2024, and one of the things that came out of that is being really, really, really crystal clear because some clients were saying that it was muddy and that it wasn't clear who's representing them and that it wasn't clear how that person's getting paid. And so in 2024, this huge lawsuit came down and has changed how we articulate that. And we now are very, very, very clear about the representation and about spelling out who's representing who. So I'm actually gonna do this. Sure. So when you're working with a buyer, on the second page, again, that's gonna be your name. You look at the first ones and you have kind of a choice, seller or buyer on the right hand side. Buyer over here, underneath the Keller Williams Realty Gateway part. So if this is a buyer class, so we're talking about working with buyers. So you are this is buyer as a buyer's agent. We don't do brokers agents here. So you're saying that this form is saying that the agent at this brokerage is a licensed agent acting in interest of the buyer as a buyer's agent. Now, this is where it gets a little, can get a little muddy. Most likely when you're first meeting with a buyer, don't know what houses they're going to want to see. You are having a conversation about getting to know them and getting pre-approved and finding out all of these things. Sometimes someone will come to you and say, I saw Julia's listing, I need to see this house, can you help me? But in most cases, we're talking a general consultation. You're not going to know that. Based on that, what you want to check is you also want to check dual agent. Dual agent will allow you to show another house, to show a house from someone at Keller Williams. Because it's dual agency, you're both at the same brokerage. Does that make sense?
Would that be the designated sales agent or?
Well, it depends, because it could be your listing.
Oh, right.
So dual agent kind of incorporates all of it. Now, let's say that someone contacts you and says, I need to see Julia's listing. I'm only interested in this listing. It's this listing or nothing. If you already know, then you can do designated because you already know who that is. So you can do advanced informed consent to dual agency with designated sales agent. And then you can fill in the bottom part, if dual agent with designated sales agent is indicated above. It would be your name, Erin Doyle is appointed to represent the buyer and Julia is appointed to represent the seller. But most of the time you don't know who the listing agent is going to be. However, it's a really good practice to explain that you want to make sure that your buyer knows. Fortunately, you, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, are being represented by a buyer's agent who works at the largest brokerage in the Finger Lakes. Chances are good you're going to see a listing that is listed by someone in our brokerage. Our brokerage may be the umbrella, but I will be advocating for you. It is up to you as an independent contractor and as someone who's running their own business to decide if you want to do dual agency, to decide if you want to be a person who does both sides of the deal, not Keller Williams doing both sides of the deal, but you, Kim Russell, representing the buyer and representing a seller. That's your choice to make. There are pros and cons to both. I am happy to talk about that in another class. My 2-cent quick thing is I think it can get really messy and really complicated, so I would caution you to going into that. And there are times where it makes sense to do that. So I'm not going to say never, ever, ever. Very rarely in real estate are there nevers. I mean, never discriminate, that's a never, but very rarely are there nevers. However, I would caution, and I think if you want to do that, let's have a conversation so that you can really understand the advantages and disadvantages to you and your clients in that situation. Everyone clear on agency at the moment? Happy. There's one other form that I personally like to do at the very beginning. During a consultation, just because it has to be done and might as well get it done now. It's up to you when you have this done, it doesn't have to be now. But it is the franchise disclosure. Sure. No, I meant like I only grabbed, like, I almost handed her two instead of the bundle. Okay, so the first page of the disclosure is what I kind of refer to as a catch-all. It goes over, once again, we're not gonna discriminate. It goes over Keller Williams will hold the earnest money deposit in escrow. And if that money, for some reason, needs to go back to the buyer, it could take up to 7 business days to release that from escrow. It goes over kind of all of these kind of random things. There's a home warranty, because why not? Buyers have up to 7 days after the purchase of their home, after closing, to decide if they want to purchase a home warranty. They can decide right then and there if they want to, or they can decide up till 7 days after closing. But we need to make sure that they know about that option. There should be new brochures on home warranties actually coming out soon. We're gonna follow up on that. No, what does it say? Anything else? No, that's about it. So that's kind of the first page. It's again kind of random stuff. The second page is an advertisement for Elmwood Agency. Elmwood Agency is an insurance agency who Keller Williams has partnered with. And what that means is that if your client ends up using Elmwood Agency, Keller Williams may receive, or you as an agent may receive compensation as a thank you for referring them to them. And so the second page goes over, look at how great Elmwood Agency is. There's nothing you have to do on that. And the third page says that the client understands that we are in a partnership with them and that we're disclosing that partnership. They don't have to use Elmwood Agency. They can use any insurance agency that they want. Something that's important to know, if you didn't know this already, is that buyers are required to have home insurance prior to closing. They're required to get a binder, and that's needed typically before clear to close will be issued, not always, but you won't be allowed to close unless they have that. If your client, I just worked with someone who was an insurance agent, and they were like, yeah, I'm good. Got it. Like, we don't need to be called. Got it. You can create a text box where you can handwrite on there that your client wishes not to be contacted, and they won't contact them. If you don't, it's lead generation for the insurance company, and so they'll then have your client's contact information and can contact them. Any questions on that? Again, this packet does not have to be done at a buyer consultation. It just has to be done before closing, and I find it oftentimes it's just easier just to get it out of the way, because otherwise you might forget it, and that would be bad. Not that I would ever forget it that way. So okay. How are we doing so far? Good? Good. Good. Okay. Next up is the buyer agency agreement. This is typically the last thing that you will go over. But the order's up here. Lovely new headshot, by the way, Cindy. No. Oh, lovely. We'll all look at that during the picture. Yes. So this is the buyer agency agreement saying that you are going to all work together. Hold on, let me.
What? Do this.
Okay. Okay, buyer agency agreement. This is what partners you with the buyer to work together and to have a lovely relationship. So, this probably goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. This probably is how I should introduce this class overall. Most of these forms, if you read them, you will figure out how to fill them out. It's not super hard. I think sometimes people look at things and it's like, oh my gosh, this is like a lot, and what are all these words, and this looks complicated. Can be, but honestly, if you read it, you can probably figure it out. I believe in all of you. I know all of you fairly well. You're all relatively smart. Some smarter than others, but that's another class as well. It's not hard, it's just wordy. Okay. We're gonna go over how to fill this out. Appointment of broker. So, the buyer agents, that's where the buyer's name go in. The tenants rather. So this is also can be used if you're working with renters. Is anyone in here working with anyone who rents? No? Okay. Almost all the forms can be used for someone buying or renting. I'm only gonna talk about buyers because otherwise the class will be twice as long, so I have to say and or renters. But most of the forms can be used for both. So first line is your buyer's names. Retains and appoints as buyer's broker, and that's where the firm Keller Williams Realty Gateway goes in. Represented by, and that's your name. In parentheses, agent. As buyer's exclusive agent to locate and or negotiate for the purchase or lease of real property of the general nature shown below. Okay. Any questions on number 1? Great. Number 2, term of agency. So this refers to how long are we going to be working together? This is negotiable. This is up to you and up to your buyer. I would encourage you to, well, who has an idea of how long a contract could or should be written for? Erin.
If I have buyers that are just starting to look, I usually, try to get them to sign for a year.
A year?
Yep.
Do you want to say more? Why a year?
Because they could say, I wanna be in a house in 3 months, and that doesn't work out, and then you just have to circle back. And I think it sort of sets the table for like, we're in this together, you're not gonna jump around. This is what we're doing, and we're moving forward together.
Anyone have any other ideas on how long they typically would put or for the term of agency?
Kind of piggybacking off of Erin, I do agree with the year in the aspect of it also gives them kind of an idea of how long this process really could take. Like
Just think about you and your process.
me and my own process,
Yes.
when I signed with my own agent, this is her words coming out of her mouth, and she straight up told me, hey, you don't have to do a year. I recommend a year because it could take that long.
Any other ideas?
Also, because the type of market we're in, it's hard for buyers.
Anyone do anything less than a year?
I do.
Say more.
Well, some of my clients need to move out of the property fast. So we are like,
Because you're working with sketchy people.
yes, you know.
We talk a lot about your clients.
She's gonna say though, isn't she?
She's very good.
6 months, but being there.
So how long do you typically do it for? 6 months?
6 months. All depend on the client. If I think they're gonna be longer, I put a year, but if I see they're trying to move fast, 6 months.
What happens if this expires and you still haven't found something?
I already had a conversation with my clients about that. As soon as we talk about the term and when ended and when beginning, I say we can, if anything happened and you don't find it in 6 months, we can renew it, and if that's okay with you, if it's not okay, we'll do it for a year. And we already has that talk.
Number two, the term is up to you.
Mm-hmm.
It's your business, you can do however long or as short as you want. I would encourage a 6-month minimum. I love a year. It may be difficult to get someone to commit to a year. 6 months may be more manageable. I know some agents who will do 30 days. And say, try me out. Let's see how it goes. Now, this is your choice. This is your business. You can do whatever you want. When I have buyer consultations and when I'm meeting with buyers, I like to think that I provide so much value and that they fall in love with me so quickly and they trust me that they don't need that trial period. I also don't want a bunch of 30-day contracts. We know what this market is like. It is a seller's market. If I have someone who says, I want to buy a house in Fairport, I want it to be move-in condition, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, or under 250.
Okay.
I'm not going to sign a 30-day lease with them or a 30-day contract with them because that's nearly impossible. Everybody wants that. So the longer time you have, the less paperwork you'll have to do, but it also establishes a little bit about the timeline and a little bit about the process. If you have anything a month or shorter, people are going to expect you to do something within a month, and that may be difficult to show a lot of value in a month in this market, depending on where they're looking. So it shall begin the date that you meet, shall end on midnight on 6 months, a year, 30 days, whenever. However, if the buyer purchases or leases a property within X number of days after this agreement ends, that was shown to the buyer by the broker, by us, or by anyone else during the life of the agreement, the buyer will pay the broker the same compensation agreed to in Section 7. So what that does is it protects the agent. Protects the agent, so if you are running around like a wild person and showing them every single thing and then the contract ends, they can't take all of the knowledge and value that you've given and put an offer in the next day and try and run out the clock on you so that they don't have to pay. So in my opinion, the amount of days that you put there should be somewhat reflective of the amount of days that the contract is for. So if you have a 30-day contract, I don't think it's reasonable to say, if you buy anything in the next 30 days, that's also on, right? Because you shorten the time frame. But if you have a year-long contract, I think 30 days is reasonable. Does that make sense? Okay.
If they sign with someone else though during that and say, but that doesn't. You know what I mean?
It can't overlap. Your contract goes to the end of that period of time.
The 30 days.
or they pay both.
Oh.
3, purchase of agency. So this is that the buyer desires to purchase property described as the following. Most of us are doing residential, so it's likely going to be residential. I also would encourage you to check off residential investment, because let's say they find a duplex that they suddenly love and they can rent out the other side and it's going to be amazing. Well, that's technically then an investment. And so you would work with them on that, and you, by checking that box, you would cover that. And let's say you've worked together for 9 months and they say, you know what I really want for a house is a unicorn and I think I want to build. Okay, we can do that. I would also make sure that I've checked vacant land, so you can help them with that part of the process as well. At any point, you can go back through this and change this. You can always add another one. You can always do those things. Again, I like to do my paperwork once and then be done with it. So I prefer to do residential, investment, and vacant land all at once.
So if you forgot, let's not say the residential investment,
Mhm.
and then later they found one, you just mark an X and make them initial?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you can do that. Or you can have them fill it in your form, whichever you want. Yep,
Okay, okay.
just initial and date. Mhm. Again, I like to cover all my bases at once and then go from there. 4, brokerage representation. This explains what a buyer's agency says. It explains what you're going to be doing. It explains dual agency. Explains all of these things. At the top of 7A, the middle of the next page, they're going to initial. Remember what I talked about before with fair housing? We want to make sure everybody knows that we do not discriminate. So they get to initial there again. This is a reminder, we don't discriminate. 7A, compensation of broker. Compensation is negotiable. That doesn't mean that you have to negotiate your compensation, the amount that you charge. But what it means is that it is not a firm amount that is set by a broker and that it can adjust. Typically, you want to select the transaction fee and not the hourly fee. If you are sitting here thinking, you know what, I think maybe I do want to get paid hourly, we should have a talk. Because that is a whole other game. Because you have to document, you have to prove that you've worked certain hours. It can be done. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just a different game altogether. I don't personally know anyone who has done hourly fee. Not to say that someone couldn't, because I know this is being recorded. It could be, but yeah.
Going back on compensation for
Mhm.
broker.
Mhm.
I get that it's, the compensation is negotiable, I understand that, but what if you have that one person that says, well, negotiable, I don't wanna be 1%. Then you say, well, I don't wanna work for 1%, so I'm gonna decline, or do you say the brokerage, it's not set, I thought is 2.75 the lowest. 2.5. 2.5 is, so then can I go back and say, well, the lowest my brokerage accepts, or that?
Would you want to work for 1%?
No, of course not, but
No, it's just,
Yeah.
it's really just a question.
no, I don't, there's,
Then I would probably put it back on the broker if you don't want to work for
I
it.
guess what I'm saying is, what do I say, what is the right verbiage to say? If someone comes back and says, I only wanna pay you 1%.
I don't wanna work with you now.
Right,
exactly.
I believe my value is this.
What I'm trying to pull out is there something I can say the brokerage does really only, oh no, you don't say that, you don't.
I
No,
believe
I wouldn't say that. I would say, I understand what you're saying. I would ask questions.
Okay.
I would say, tell me more. Tell me more about this 1%, what, tell me more about where you get that from.
So
And they will probably say, wow. I don't wanna pay you too much. I read a lot of articles on how real estate agents are millionaires and I don't wanna do that. You don't deserve that. Okay. First of all, I would be thinking, do I wanna work with this person who doesn't see my value? Second of all, I would be thinking, do they understand how compensation works?
So I don't know why I'm stuck at 2.5, but what is 2.5?
2.5 is the minimum until you cap that you are allowed to go down to.
Okay.
Taylor,
I was gonna say, you can say my, fee is based off the services I provide, and then you could list off what those services are and be like, if you would like, we can take out some of these, if you don't want me to help you with this, and make your job easier. If you still wanted to work with them, get a little bit. Does that make sense?
it does make sense. So how I do it when someone says, well, I want to negotiate your compensation. What I do, because I'm me, I say, I am so glad we're having this conversation. You are certainly welcome to pay me more than my minimum.
I've said that before.
Oh, we'll start using that one.
Totally said that before.
And they say, well, no, that's not what I meant. That's not, no, I want to pay you less. Oh. I don't get, you don't, I mean, again, it's me. You have to develop your own, there's no one line to use, right? I would say, if someone says, I want to pay you 1%, I would say, then I'm not sure this is going to be a good fit. And I would leave it at that. There are agents out there who will do it for 1%. I'm not necessarily sure the quality that you always get, or the attention, or the detail, or the list of services, right? 1%, great. You can go to any open house. I'm not going to show you a house.
Can you say to them, well, I have a cap, so 2.5 is the
They
minimum.
don't,
No, they don't need to know.
So,
No.
so
No.
just leave that out.
personally, I would not bring up what our brokerage's minimums are because,
Might look for a different brokerage.
I mean, because they could talk to someone at Keller Williams who has capped and would give them 1%.
Mhm.
And so then you blame the brokerage when it's really your unique financial situation that doesn't allow you to go down to that.
I've said to people too, if I'm not confident enough to negotiate my own compensation,
Mhm.
how do you think that's gonna work when we try to negotiate on a home for you?
Mhm.
If you have a 1%er that's like, okay, fine, I'll just do it. They're not gonna be negotiating for you either.
If I can't protect my money, how can I protect yours?
So what's like the recommended starting point? 3 or more than that? Like for somebody that genuinely doesn't know what to put on the paper.
I think most agents charge 3%.
Unless you have a buyer that's looking at like a smaller property, like Jenny and I have done some mobile home manufactured home deals, and you don't wanna make 3% on those, you wanna have like a minimum amount.
Yeah.
So that goes
Number.
to the next point. If it's not a percentage, then it can be a flat fee, and it's going to be the higher of the two. And so setting what that flat fee is, and that's something that you should think about prior to getting into that conversation.
Yeah.
You should think about that today on your drive home. What's the minimum amount that I'm willing to work for? You're a business owner, you're an independent contractor, you get to decide that. Taylor.
I remember talking one time about, like if you were doing dual agency and you know, were working with, someone from Keller Williams. That somewhere, if you put 3%, that's splitting it between you and.
It's for listings.
Oh, that's really.
That's on the listing side,
Oh.
yeah. Mhm.
We don't deal with that, okay.
Come to the listing class if you wanna learn about that and more tricks. So I would think about what your flat fee is going to be, absolutely, because 3% on a $40,000 mobile home is not gonna be very much. Maybe you're fine with that, that's your decision. I would say most agents, I don't know very many people who do anything for less than $1,000. Except for Jenny.
No,
No.
Good, good. I think you should do more.
No.
that's what.
I think I haven't seen anything less than 1,000. It's up to you.
Yes, it's very.
I did so much work for them.
I do typically if it's me, I do 1,500. But again, that only comes into effect if you're looking in a certain price point.
So is that where you would put it with the, a transaction fee, which is great, which
Mhm.
is the greater of you put your minimum?
Yep.
$1,000.
Yep, or 3%, or however much it is.
How about
Fill out both.
Yes.
Okay. How about lands? Because land sometimes is cheap too.
Well,
it's
so
like-
that is different. So personally, I don't do land. So I don't ever do land. I refer that up. In my opinion, a lot of agents do it. You're allowed to do land. Scott, I'm sure you've done land. A lot of agents have done it. There's a lot to know about land. And it sounds really easy because you look and you go, it's just some grass. How hard can it be? And it's really hard. You gotta have a perk test. You gotta have it. And I'm like, I don't know any of that. So personally, I refer that out. But if I didn't, I would also have that minimum for however much you would do. I don't know. Andrew Torpy does all the land deals. I don't know.
I'm gonna call Andy.
Yeah, I don't know. Andrew Torpy knows everything about land, so that's what I refer, and I say, I'll just take 25%, thank you very much. I don't understand it, and I don't want to. But that's just me.
When he's doing another class.
Anyone has asked him to do a class, so you should talk to the education committee about that if you'd like a land class.
What if you have the opposite problem when you have the $3 million lake house?
That's a great question.
I hear one coming up or anything.
That's a
but I'm
great
just very
story. Well, so this is the buyer class, right? So it's how would you negotiate that and what would that look like? If you're, I mean, this probably goes without saying, but if you're looking to represent buyers who are looking in the multi-millions, we should probably talk about a lot of things, right? Like what your presentation's gonna look like, what expectations are, all those kinds of things. I'd probably put you in contact with a couple of our luxury agents, all that kind of stuff. It is not uncommon for luxury prices to go lower as a percentage point because it's such a large paycheck. That's a conversation with Susan that you can have. I know she certainly, we flex, because think of it this way, if you're looking at a $3 million one, you're gonna cap on that, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, once you cap, you can do whatever you want with your commission. If I start to see that your commission slips down because you feel bad for people and this and that, we're gonna talk because your value hasn't changed. You're still a strong agent, in fact, even stronger because you've done more deals. You should not, drives me nuts. We have one agent who does 1% once she caps, and I wanna lovingly punch her in the face. Like, I feel bad. I don't care. What are you doing?
Don't listen to your morals.
Listen to anyway, enough about that. It's a whole other subject. Are we good on money?
Yes.
Right.
Wait, does buyer initials in front of the transaction?
Yeah, before the one. Yep, on the left. Underneath, please and agree. And again, don't do hourly because the nightmare. The last page is a lot of legal stuff. Again, in case you didn't know, number 9, we will not discriminate. 12, you can renew or modify the agreement, so if someone changes their mind and says, yes, I want to do land, and you didn't check it off before, you can do that. Professional counsel, we recommend that the buyer seek legal, tax, property financing, property inspection, appraisal, environmental engineering, and other professional advice, if appropriate, relating to any proposed transaction. You are not an attorney. You're not we don't have any engineers in here. We don't have any tax consultants. We recommend that they talk to specialists for that. And then they sign.
Okay, let's go back to that. That we have any forms or anything that we, need to fill up or anything if we decide to early termination or
No.
have that look?
You don't have any form, we don't have an early termination form.
Mhm.
If you and the buyer agree that you no longer want to work together,
Mhm.
what I have recommended people do is they send an email so that it's in writing and it's time and date stamped. That says, I releasing you from the contract and from the agreement that we had, I wish you the best of luck. Whatever. That's
Okay.
what I recommend.
If you have a client that doesn't abide by this contract, just get in touch with them.
Yep,
Yes.
Susan will help you negotiate all.
So we don't sign this one.
You do, you sign it as broken.
Always broken.
Yep. Okay, any questions on this? No? Okay. Let's do this. Let's take a 5-minute break to stretch our legs, get some more coffee. Check your phone, go to the bathroom, all those kinds of things, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. How's that sound?
Good.
Broker buy Keller Williams? What's the buy?
So broker, it can be either, you can put your name there or you can put your name in the buy. It doesn't matter. Your name is in one, Keller Williams Gateway Realty is in the other. Oh. Well, I only have 14 messages.
One of my close friends came back, right, we'll actually have deceased. Those are the ones I already. Yes. Uh-huh. And you guys need something? Yeah, they put the postage on and everything. You create it. You can. Put it, we do too, like you can display like the groups in your. In your. Oh, I saw. Okay. So like $5 per. I thought he was going in the. And then I'm kind of figuring it out, since it's not me or. Right, you got the. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, something up, and it's Thursday. It's just, it's Thursday. It's like a Wednesday, it's the same. Oh, you're the one who's crazy. Right, generally, yes. Yes. Okay. My rural secret policy. So I don't try to get it. I can do this phrase up on this. I did. And I asked how I was. I say it's like more than no, she is, but that's not. Oh my God, it is. Wait, so. But these things, we did better than. About my son, but. So you say. Well, we got, I go based on the station that we don't like that, all of you are. Oh my God. So she's special, how many girls out? Let's see. I know. So. We bring the. That everything says, oh, just in case you want that. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just like. Yes. And I'm starting on business. You're the mom, you start down with the way. And I know way. So I have this really actually, I think we saw that it was I thought it would make quality finding Josh. I will let you know. I think Friday is gonna help you like that. Yeah, it's starting to see report. Yeah. Right now. Yeah, other than that. Now is down the. Now,
It's not that way, we don't know for it's that, like, for the. So, well, it's. Then yeah, they're, it's open, I don't know. So I can put it on the long one. But so, are you going to read that later? So it would be nice to be here, and you have a book for us. Yeah, just get that. There's no, so then, I have some questions you want. Right, but I can't say. Oh. So you get in the plan. But yeah, I think then you're representing information, and then they're receiving information. The buyer, they go back to your future. Yeah, well, that's the problem. Yes. That's why it's not like. So, just add these about this. Yeah. It's actually kind of. So it's all hard that it is discussion. It's also the question. So, that's so like it always comes to wrong before I go, and that's when I see this. So. But I can do then, I don't get it down. I'm the main character. And you see, I'm over to the boy. Now we're really looking. Well, and I'm next to the last thing I have. I know, I just have to know, I know, because she's. And, probably going serious from fire. What's going on? This, because it's like, you know, so real way that I don't have a long time. And right, so I cannot explain, yes. And I don't just say, hey, guys, it's just how you hear, I'm saying, yeah, I have a friend who will be back. And anyway, it's so like you're being. See, can you hear anyone? Jenny, anyone else? I mean, talk later. So, yes, I don't see happen. Yeah, really good too.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I just got a haircut this last week and it's, the girls still aren't like, new like, so.
It's crazy. I was gonna ask if you got a haircut at some point, because it looked a little shorter.
Like some of it's longer.
I'm getting a haircut tomorrow.
Yeah, you are.
I'm getting one next week.
Yeah, I'm hairdressers.
Oh, my boyfriend's mom's my hairdresser, and I don't feel like I can't go anywhere else.
Oh, lady who charges me a ton of, but she doesn't ever want to cut it where, I mean, can you
Okay.
cut it? She's like, no. There you some later, I'm like, I'm in bed, like.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to have long hair and long, it's real that, it's just, I got something. It's what it is, like long like that. Yeah, long time. It's hot. Yeah, and when I was a nurse, like I literally just stayed on the ponytail all the time, and I'm like, if I would stay on the haircut.
Yeah, it's nice. I have thick and I have a lot.
Yeah.
Close the use us.
Yeah, I like it. My husband has really good hair, longer than yours. He's like, oh yeah. We have to like sleep out, it's like, yeah, can you imagine two of us? Yeah. Are you gonna agree to a meeting now?
You will love that.
Oh, of course I will. I love organizations.
I know you love the
Yeah.
checklist.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I saw that you RSVP'd, I was like, I'm definitely doing the checklist. Okay,
And it will be laminated in my binder, I'm sure.
I just passed out a buyer checklist for you. This is what I use to keep track of things. You may want to change things, you may want to add the things. If you would like a copy of this electronically so you can modify it, just send me an email saying, hey, can you send that? Because if you just say right now, yes, I do, I will forget. Because that's what happens in your holdings. Okay. I am now going to pass out purchase and sale contract. Yep. No, I didn't. Shut up.
I got Jenny talking, so she's delayed. Yeah, it's not hard, but.
It's not hard at all.
We're professional, yeah, or that's what we do. My dad at work, when I worked at the clinic, used to say, born to yap, forced to chart.
Yeah. I don't talk to her, she's got a chart, yeah, but. No. Okay. Yeah, that checklist is. I think it has the time for me.
For Gloria.
Gloria, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so mine's got a gray all of it.
That's fine.
I was just saying, I like this checklist, I have the old one.
Oh, I thought I gave you one that had my
No.
rating.
Gloria's glad I stuff written all over it, yeah.
Yeah, I gave you that, yep. I borrowed yours to make a copy, so sure.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, we're doing good. Doing good. We're doing great. Everything's great. Everything's great. Okay. Purchase and sale contract. So you've had your buyer consultation, you've done agency, you've done fair housing, you've done a contract, you've done an agreement to work together. You've done franchise, you've reminded them 100 times, you're not gonna discriminate, everything's great. They go to a house, they see the house, they love the house. Yay. Now you get to write the offer on the house. So. Here we go. Okay. Actually, I want to make a copy of this first. Sorry, everyone. I'm going to make a copy of an MLS listing so that if you want to fill it out with actual information, then you have a thing for it. So here is an MLS printout of the house that your buyers have said they love, that they want to move into, or put it on them. Okay. I'm gonna sit. Yeah, as you should. There's not a big difference between me standing and sitting anyway, is there? Sure. Okay.
Oh, love this house.
Lovely house. I heard the listing agent is amazing. Amazing. Wow.
This house.
It is. This house is under contract, so it is no
Okay.
longer, yes. And it has been, this is just an old thing. Okay. So. When you go to write a purchase and sale contract, purchase offer, a lot of the information will be pulled from Realist and from the listing directly into this contract for you. It'll ask you if you want to pull from Realist or from the MLS. Always pull from the MLS if you can. And you'll put in the number, and it's R16000780, which is found at the very, very tippy top of the printout. It's up to you how you do this. For me, I always like to have a hard copy of the MLS printout that I'm writing an offer on, because if I'm doing it on my laptop, I only have one screen. It's too hard to go back and forth. I just like to have a printout. That's just my little tip of the day. You don't have to have a hard copy if you don't want it. It's up to you. But a lot of this information will be filled in for you already. For instance, the two will be filled in with the seller's names. If it isn't for some reason, then you can find the names on the owner on the MLS, which is right in the middle. Top third of the page. And then from, that's the buyer. Those are the people you're representing.
Yes. Question.
Already?
Yes. Okay, we're moving from one side to another. It's gonna be transact now. Yes, when I tried to write the offers, it moved to the new one.
Okay.
So when you're gonna put the client signature, I don't know how to do it. Then you're
Okay.
gonna do a class on that.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Is it making you go to the new one now?
Yeah.
Or you can-
You can still use the old one, but it just keep pushing me to the new one.
I think what Jenny's talking about, just to bring everyone up to speed, there are, when you go into transaction desk, when you go to write a contract, there is a classic version of transaction desk, and then there's an updated version. For some people, the updated version is, people are being required to update before they necessarily want to. There's nothing wrong with using the updated version, except that the updated version, when it first came out, had a lot of hiccups to it. And so I was encouraging people to stick with the classic version until they got all of those worked out. And so it may be pushing you to a new version, in which case there will be a class coming up on how to use that new version. Yep, but the content for the purchase offer is the same, regardless of the method that you use to write it. Okay, property description. Okay, real property known as, this is where again, this will auto-populate, but the address of the property goes there. So it would be 6883 State Route 5 and 20. And then in the county of Ontario. And then you want to make sure, people oftentimes miss this. You want to make sure that you check one of the next three boxes, either town, city, or village. So check, this is in a town. It's not in a village. So you check town. It's not in a city. East Bloomfield is certainly not a city. So you check town and then of East Bloomfield, state of New York, and then you put the zip. And then the tax number will also transfer automatically for you, which is good because it's long and it's important. It's really important that you have the right tax number because that's the property. And so the tax property number is right at the very top of the page up here. That's where you get it. And so that would just go under tax number. Approximate lot size or acreage. You will find that in the very top in the right-hand corner up here. And what I tend to do here for acreage is I write plus or minus 2.35 acres. I only put 2.35 because that's the number here. I don't always put 2.35, right? But whatever the acreage is, I put plus or minus because maps are different. Maps change. Sometimes it may be technically 2.37 acres. It may be 2.32 acres. It could be a little off. And so by doing the plus slash minus, it just gives you a little bit of wiggle room and it protects your buyer if a survey or if something comes back and it's a little off. But obviously it should be close to 2.35. That's what it says. That's what it should be close to. But especially if you're really rural, oftentimes there's just a little wiggle room. So that just protects you. Okay, description of buildings on property. A lot of agents get hung up on this part, so I want to make sure that you know what that means because it's not exactly as it means. So what this means is the structure of any properties, of any buildings that are on the property. I don't care if it's a greenhouse. Bad example. I don't care if it's a blue house. I don't care if it's a red house. I don't care about the color of the house. I don't care. I don't care if it's newly painted. I don't care if it's pretty. I don't care about those things. What that means is the structure of the property. So for this house, for example, I would put a 2-story, and this is, I look down in the bottom third of the page for this. So I do a 2-story colonial single family residence. What's a little tricky about this one is that there is a barn and there's a shed. And you want to make sure that you indicate both of those. So I would say a 2-story single family colonial, single family residence colonial, comma, 1 barn, comma, 1 shed. Something like that. But you always want to make sure if there's like a separate, if there's a detached garage, always put detached garage. If there's, it's like if you, the way it was described to me is like if you take an aerial of the buildings, like of the property, like what properties, what buildings do you see on the property? So if there's any, now a swing set, not a property, that doesn't go on, not a building, doesn't go on there. Barn shed, those are buildings, those go on. Yep. Any of those things go on. But like sometimes you see swing set in there, that doesn't count. Pools? Pool is not a building. If there's a pool shed, I would put that in. Okay. Moving down. These are all the things that are included in the purchase unless otherwise mentioned. Basketball apparatus, so if there's a metal basketball that's cement or basketball hoop that's cemented in the driveway, that stays. Ceiling fans, those stay. Anything that's attached and a part of the building or the property stays. They can't take out like their window screens and take those with them, right? They also can't any permanent feature like a tree or a bush. All of those stay. Every once, I know you guys are gonna laugh, but every once in a while you'll see something where it's like a bush that was planted by someone's great great grandmother and they want to take it with them. It should be indicated then in the description that the sellers have the right to remove the one rose bush or whatever. But otherwise they can't totally change the landscaping. They can't do any of that stuff.
That, if that were to happen, the description.
So if there was something like that, it would be in the MLS, and then I'll show you in just a minute where it would be on here. So B3 is these are the items that are not attached to the house, but that are also going to stay. If there's a clothes dryer, if there's a clothes washer, all of those things should be indicated on the second page. And it might be the first page, right? So depends on how long the MLS description is. But it says right here, appliances. They'll indicate what's being left. And so you want to make sure if it says it's leaving a clothes dryer and a washer and your buyers want that clothes dryer and washer, you better put one clothes dryer, one clothes washer, dishwasher. Freezer does not mean the freezer component of a refrigerator. It means a separate standalone freezer.
With a box.
Yeah. Microwave, oven range, refrigerator. Sometimes you're going to want to check. A lot of times people will have two refrigerators, one out in the garage. If that's the case, make sure you put two.
That's what I was gonna say, would they put like numbers in this if it was multiple?
Yep.
Oh, they will, I'll say two.
Well, you do that as the buyer. Yes. You're writing this contract.
No, I'm saying on the MLS sheet, if there was multiple refrigerators, it wouldn't say two, you'd have to count that.
They should put two. I would double check though.
Mhm.
They may say, we're taking the one in the garage, but the one in the kitchen stays. It just depends. And so if that's the case, so let's say, I had a situation once where the air conditioning wasn't working. No, that's a bad example. I had a situation. You may have a situation where something doesn't work, the microwave doesn't work, whatever. If it's disclosed in here, the seller doesn't have to fix it for closing. And so if there's an exception to all of the items that should be included, then that box, you'll want to check that box and you'll say, the seller shall cause the items to be in working condition except for. So if there's already something broken and they've disclosed it, they don't have to fix it. Because it's disclosed and the buyer knows at the time you're writing the offer. If there isn't anything like that, and if everything's working and up and running condition, then you should put no exceptions. Yeah.
What if in the MLS it lists the oven and then when you as the agent is showing the property to your client and the oven doesn't work, what do you do as the agent? When say your client still wants to write an offer on the house, so what should I?
Let the listing agent know.
Okay.
I would let them know, hey, I tried the oven, doesn't seem to be working. Is there something weird that I need to do, or what's the situation here? And they'll say, I don't know, I'll talk to my sellers. Then they'll figure it out.
There's one less than, if you see the picture, you see the stove, and you go through the house. Well, and the appliance fields and it say stove, and we went to see the house. no stove. So I did call the realtor,
Mhm.
said, hey, where is it?
Yeah. It happens. Yeah,
Or you could do what I do and write a purchase agreement, and say that there's a dishwasher and there's a dishwasher. So the selling agent says, there is no dishwasher or microwave in that house, X that out. That was,
nice try.
yeah, no.
Nice try.
She was, nope.
So the next line is the one that you were talking about, Sandy, that items excluded. So if there's a problem with something, if there's an issue with something,
Really wanna keep your perk. Goes here.
it could.
So if the fireplace are not working, we'll put it in there too? Excluded or not?
How would that go in the F check?
Yeah, cause sometimes they say, fireplace as is, or,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I would put that in the checked one.
okay.
Okay, page 2. First line is the price. This is the price that your buyer wants to submit for the purchase of the home.
Wait, where?
Second page, very top, purchase price.
Oh, I go from 1 to 3, that's why. Maybe I'm.
Is it front to back?
Just front. And then it goes 3.
Make you a copy.
I was confused, I'm like, wait, mine says inspection turn.
Someone wants to keep their purse.
Say, the seller wants to keep their perks. We're a certain
Certain
time.
cash. Just the current.
Right, let's say it's saying, I don't know, well, I guess it would take it down before they listed that.
Well, you can want to move out.
Well, what I'm saying is they could do staging.
Oh, yeah, they can.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm using her.
Curtains don't count, they're not attached.
That's
Just a dead round. So if the buyer wants the curtains, they need to put it in.
Oh, so okay, that, that's for them. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they, and technically curtains are personal property,
Yeah,
not,
that's true, yeah. But it's.
so that would be.
Give me that first page.
Sure, some.
Nope, just kidding. You hold that and give me the other.
Okay,
yeah.
Counter, like, your, if the.
Ah, I see now.
Directly be, see.
Okay, purchase price. The amount that they are going to pay. That goes in there. Next, deposit. So your buyer is not always required, but most competitive offers, unless it's a VA offer, you likely will have a deposit. The deposit amount is included in the purchase price. It's not an additional amount on top of the purchase price. Sometimes buyers get confused with that, but it's included. You need to indicate the format, or the how you're going to be getting that deposit. Typically it's a bank check. Sometimes you'll see a wire transfer, sometimes a personal check. Oftentimes it depends on the age of the buyer. Older buyers typically will use a personal check. So you want to ask them prior to writing how they're going to do that. And that is due, who can tell me when that's due?
2 days.
Mhm.
So I have another question. Let's not say my client say they're gonna write a personal check.
Mhm.
And then they come up and they all forgot accepted and they say, hey, it's easier for me to do electronic transfer. Can we change that in here or just call the listing agent and say, hey,
I would call the listing agent and let them know that that they would prefer to do a wire transfer, or whatever transfer that they prefer. You typically wouldn't need to do a
Don't worry about that, just call them.
no, but you should try to get.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and because you are submitting the offer and you're likely hearing about it 24 hours later, probably things haven't changed that much. You know, it's not like something that you're asking for now, and then it's next April when they're gonna make the decision on how they do it, 'cause it's the offer you're writing. So hopefully it will be accurate. If not, it's probably not a big deal.
Mhm.
But the listing agent could say no.
Okay.
Either the official bank check or the personal check, who are they making that to? If it's listed with Howard Hanna and we're working for Howard Hanna, who's that made out to?
Good question. Who knows the answer?
It will be here in the MLS.
What?
Keller Williams and escrow.
So in the listing, in the MLS printout,
Okay,
it will say who it's made out to.
okay,
Yeah, if it's Hannah Hammer, it will be right here.
so that's easy.
Where does it say that?
Yep. So it says it right on the last, at the bottom of the MLS printout on page 2. Says escrow account and bank, Keller Williams Gateway.
Well, it will transfer, right?
Mhm.
It will transfer with doing transaction that it will be here.
It'll
Oh,
pull
yeah.
from the MLS.
Okay.
But in case it doesn't, I want you to know where you can find it. But yes, it should transfer from the MLS.
Good question.
And then you also have the where it's going to be deposited, the bank. That's also going to be right here, Lions National Bank. It's not always going to be that. It is not. This is my listing, and I'm an agent here at the same brokerage as you. And that's why this is what this is. It's not, it is dependent on where the listing agent is. It's not dependent on where the buyer's agent is. So it's going to change. If you are working with someone from Howard Hanna, it's not going to be Keller Williams Gateway at Lions National Bank just because you are the agent writing it. It's where the listing agent is. Okay. Seller concessions. Well, any other questions on deposit? No. Seller concessions. Typically not something that we see a lot of, although some people are having some success with this. Who can explain what seller concessions are?
I may be wrong, but it's how it was explained to me. Basically, you're asking the seller to kind of front the buyer a little bit of money to help with the purchase of the house. That will then be applied to them to pay back. The seller still sees the money, but it's basically to assist the buyer a little bit more with the money to purchase the home.
It is typically when a buyer is short on cash. Yep. They're short on cash and but they qualify for more than the price of the home. So they're going to write a higher offer and they're going to ask the seller to give some of that money back so they have the money for closing.
So for cash offers
Nope.
or any?
No, it wouldn't be cash because if it's a cash offer, you likely don't need concessions because you're not short on cash.
Like if they give money for closing costs.
Pay
or-
you as the agent.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like pay down points on the mortgage, stuff like that.
Oh,
Typically C is left blank right now. But you never know. We are seeing some seller concessions get accepted. Moving down to three. Three are the contingencies. So this is where you indicate how you are going to be paying for the property. So A is financing. How are we financing this? Number one is if we're getting a mortgage commitment. Number two is if we're paying with cash. Number three is if we're using a lender cash program. That one may be a new one that was recently added in the most recent revision. Then four is additional financing terms, which is typically left blank. So for number one, mortgage commitment, let's say that your person's getting a mortgage, it's going to be financed. Contract is subject to buyer obtaining and accepting a written blank mortgage loan commitment. So that's the type of mortgage that they're going to be getting. So it would likely either be conventional or VA or FHA or USDA. Those are typically the options that you would put there. Is there anything else? Scott, any that I'm missing?
If you do an investment property commercial,
Yeah. Those are the main ones. Mortgage loan commitment in an amount not to exceed X percentage of the purchase price. So, a lot of this information you're going to get from your lender. Typically, if it's a conventional, it's typically going to be 80%, but not always. What it really is saying is how much cash are they paying at closing and versus how much is going to be financed. From a listing agent perspective, listing agents oftentimes prefer that number to be smaller rather than larger, because they believe that it's a stronger buyer the more cash they have, if they're not dependent on 97% of the price of the home to be paid for being financed.
That makes more sense, okay.
So it's typically a percentage, it's typically not the or and a dollar sign. At an interest rate not to exceed. Again, you're going to get that from your lender. Typically, what you should, my advice is you should ask your lender. So as we know, interest rates change a little bit. It changes a little bit every week. And so what you would love to do, and it's not always possible, but let's say that you're putting in an offer that is not at the ceiling of your buyer's ability. What you would, if it's okay with your buyer, like to do is give a little bit of a cushion in that percentage of the interest rate. Because as a listing agent, let's say that the rates today are 6.75. If I see that my buyer, Aaron, that the buyer is only able to go, if it's 97% of the purchase price at an interest rate not to exceed 6.75, that's tight. Because what that says is if the interest rate bumps up to 6.8, they don't qualify. And as we know, there's a lot of little variations in that. So if you can, my suggestion is to see if you can go up a quarter of an interest rate. Because that shows to the seller that you have a little bit of wiggle room, which means you can tolerate a little bit of an adjustment in the market. I'm not saying to put up to 12%, right? but you want a little bit of adjustment because that shows that you are strong enough to withhold a little bit of, I don't want to say volatility because that's not right, but a little bit of fluctuation in the market.
Doesn't it also kind of protect your buyers, cause like, for some reason, there's like nuclear war and the rates go up to like 20% tomorrow, like,
Mhm.
we're not buying this house.
Right.
And that's why.
So that percentage box,
Mhm.
would you get that information though from the lender?
Yep. And then I always ask, is there any wiggle room? Can I go up a little bit on this?
To the lender.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes they'll say, no. At this price with these taxes in this school district, no. Okay. Not every listing agent will look at that though, so you might be fine. I don't know. I like to see a little, I like wiggle room in every area of my life, including contracts.
Fair.
Like I want, although I don't want it to be super tight like that, so just don't know. Buyer shall immediately apply for the loan and shall have until X date to obtain and accept a commitment. So you'll also get that date from your lender. When can they get commitment in? A listing agent is going to want to see a shorter time period on that than like the quickest possible. The conditions of such commitment shall not be deemed contingencies of the contract, but shall be the sole responsibility of the buyer. However, a commitment that is conditional on an appraisal of the property shall not be deemed a commitment hereunder. The commitment requires repairs, replacements, or improvements. The seller shall furnish the requisite materials and have the work done before closing at the seller's expense. However, if the cost of doing so exceeds X, the seller shall not be obligated to furnish such materials and have such work done. And buyer will be allowed either to receive a credit at closing for the above amount and incur any necessary expenses to comply with the commitment requirements or to cancel the contract by written notice to the seller. So, what that says is mortgages oftentimes are subject to an appraisal because the lender wants to make sure that the amount that they are lending out on this property, that the property is worth that. An appraisal, depending on the type of loan, an appraisal may require you to do certain things to the home in order for it to appraise at the amount that you need to appraise at. As you can imagine, this could be quite costly depending on what the issue is. And so that amount, what that does is it moves the responsibility of paying for repairs, which the seller has, it moves that responsibility once you hit that threshold back to the buyer. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay.
It's a good price.
Well, it depends on your buyer. Um, I typically put $500, $250. I had one agent who knew that there could be a problem, and she put a really high number. And the listing agent didn't catch it. And the seller was on the hook for some foundational issues.
If you're trying to really be competitive, you can 0, right?
Yeah,
Cause then your buyers said, oh, we'll take care of it.
yeah. I usually do 250 or 500. It's just enough so that they have to pay, if it's something minor they pay for, but otherwise my buyer will probably handle it.
And this is just for appraisal reasons, this isn't.
Yep.
Anything to do with the.
Yep, it's still under the financing, yep. Cash transaction, so let's say that the person is cash only, then you don't need to worry about number one, you check the box by number two, track cash transaction. Typically, you are providing written proof of the funds with the offer, so I put in the date of the offer. Lender cash program, if you're using a cash guarantee type of program, then you would check number 3. And number 4 would probably be used if you had some kind of a grant. A grant that is required by the buyer in order to close, not a grant that would be convenient and just helpful. You don't want to make it a contingency on a grant if you don't have to.
What's an example of a grant required by a buyer?
First time home buyer grants. If someone has to get the $15,000 that Lions National Bank will give them in order to close, if they have to have it, then it has to be in the contract. If it would just be really awesome if they had it and it's not required for them, leave that out of the contract.
Have to have it as in like so they can afford. the
Yeah.
house.
And then what if they don't need it, so you don't include it in the contract, but then they say, yep, we'll accept your offer, and your buyers want to use.
You can use whatever you want as long as it's not contingent on, as long as it's helpful, not necessary.
So
Paper
then,
towel.
so then where would you need to put that? Like, would you need to put that?
You
somewhere
don't
different?
disclose it
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
because you don't want to give the listing agent a reason to worry.
Correct.
You want it to be as easy as possible. But if your buyers needs that money or else they can't close, you got to tell them. Sale and transfer of title. Sale and transfer of title means that they currently have a house and they need to sell that house in order to buy this house. C is building code compliance. Typically for a residential property, if it has been residential, it's staying residential, there haven't been any major changes to it, I typically do not check that.
Okay, question, if they already fixed the inside. And you want to see the code. Did you have to call or the listing agent have to give you the paperwork? How'd that work?
If there was a flip or something and there was work done, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, like it's a flip. And the fix, nothing has changed, the plant's still the same, but they just put new cabinets, new stuff, new,
I mean, if someone
Plumbing.
puts in new cabinets, they don't have to.
okay, how about plumbings and things that change?
Electrical and structural.
Okay, so they have to get me,
So there should be permits
there
on
should be permits, so that's my
with the
question.
town.
Then we have to call.
It
as a
depends.
buyer,
It
or
depends on the listing agent. The listing agent should disclose those. If they
Okay.
don't, then you can certainly call and request those.
Okay,
It depends on the listing agent. And if you have a listing agent who's doing it for 1%, then you as the buyer's agent is going to be calling.
stop charging 1%.
Right? Start doing your job. Sorry, I'm like,
So
whatever.
so that's anything that requires a permit.
Yeah.
And technically, you want it to be inspected, you don't just want the permit, you wanna know that the work was done and done right.
Yeah, the permit should be closed. Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be a closed permit. It shouldn't just be, yeah, they asked if they could build a porch and we don't
It
know.
doesn't mean they did it.
Right. Okay. Number 4, inspection terms. Either you are asking for an inspection or you are not asking for an inspection. As agents, we should never be discouraging our clients from getting an inspection. And it is a very competitive market. And in order to be competitive, many buyers are choosing not to get an inspection. It is your buyer's choice what they choose to do. But no client should ever say, well, Jenny told me I couldn't get one.
Thank you.
It's always Jenny. And this is so important that we actually also have our own paperwork for this. And it's a waiver of inspections if they decide to decline. That says, hey, I really am waiving my right to an inspection.
On a transaction desk.
Yeah, it'll be in the
Yes.
gateway form.
Yes.
Yep. But let's say they are like, we want an inspection. Okie dokie. So inspection 4A. Oh my god, I almost fell. Nobody saw that. Too much caffeine. No such thing. Okay, inspections. So they say, yes, I want an inspection. Cool. Okay, so you're gonna check the box under in of inspection right before A. And then you get to choose what kind of inspections you want and who is going to do those. So the first box is what you check if you want what is considered a typical home inspection. You're going to have a home inspection by a licensed engineer or a home inspector, an architect, a contractor, or someone else who's representing a property inspection. That's usually the most common inspection that you see. Depending on where you are, location-wise, you may want to request a radon inspection. Radon is an invisible, odorless gas that can be very, very harmful. It comes in from the ground. It seeps into the house. I'm making it sound like something from Stranger Things, but it just like kind of comes in and it can be very dangerous. Certain areas are more prone to radon than others. We could have a whole class on radon. We're not going to right now, but some people are very, very nervous about radon. There's radon detectors that you can get, just like a smoke detector or a carbon monoxide. Monoxide? Deoxide?
Monoxide.
Monoxide, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's detectors you can get, all those kinds of things, but some people want to have a radon inspection. Great. Other pool, if they have a pool and they want their pool to be inspected. Sometimes people want chimney inspections. That's coming up.
Oh.
Sometimes if you have someone, especially moving from the south, they'll want a pest inspection, which is annoying. But they want to make sure there's no termites or things like things that they are used to, but that we don't typically have to worry about. Again, their choice, they can do whatever they want. that this is their offer, you want to make sure they're comfortable with it. And the more of these you add on, the less competitive it's going to be if it's a competitive situation. First time period, all inspections above will be completed within X calendar days of the accepted contract at the buyer's expense. Second time period, if the buyer is not satisfied with the inspection report within X calendar days, then after the thing, then they need to deliver the seller a written notice of what the problems are. And then third time period is upon receipt, the seller and the buyer have X calendar days to enter into a written agreement addressing the buyer's objections. The days that you put here, it can be tricky because it may be difficult depending on the type of inspection that you want to get. It may be difficult to have someone be able to get out there to do that type of inspection, right? Like, I don't know what your experience has been, Scott, with chimney inspections. Chimney inspections are notoriously difficult. Like, there's like 2 chimney people in all of New York State, I swear, and they're very busy. And so what you don't want to do is put down, oh, someone will be out there in 3 days if there's no way they can get out there in 3 days. So if it's something like a regular inspection, I would probably put 7 days, 5 to 7. If it's really unique though, I would call a company and say, hey, I'm writing an offer. They want an inspection. If they get it, how much time do you need in order to come out and do an inspection? Because some like chimneys are the freaking worst. That's a great industry to go into. If anyone wants to become a chimney inspector, there's a big gap for it. Yeah. Really?
I do, he does mine.
Don't tell me it's 4 wins.
This is what I
I
told
don't
you.
remember, no, I think
Yeah.
it's something different, but.
They're
I
great.
have used them before.
4 wins, great.
Yes, they speak Spanish.
See, but they're not available. I waited months to get a chimney inspection,
Oh, wow.
but it wasn't for a contract. Just because I was like, "You're not gonna get a chip. You're not using that."
Yeah.
Like,
It could
You're
be
right.
any time of year.
yes.
So if you call, like, you can call and obviously get information, but you won't agree to anything without,
Right.
you know, calling your buyer and saying, hey, I did some research for you and this is the information, and then put it in their hands.
Yeah.
Got it.
I mean, sometimes depending on the relationship you have with the buyer, you may end up calling, and once you're under an accepted offer, you may call and arrange for the inspector to come, or you may call to arrange for the chimney guy to come. Good luck. Or whatever it is. You may do that depending on your relationship. If you're charging 1%, you're probably not. But I've just met septic people yesterday because my sellers couldn't do it. You know, it just depends. So typically 5 to 7 days for your first time period. Second time period, I don't know, 3 to 5. Third time period, 3. You know, you don't want this to appear to a listing agent to be really drawn out because it's already a bit of like it's already not ideal that you're asking for this, right? So if you're asking for it, you don't want it to also be a long drawn out process. You want it to be as tight as possible. Or your buyer chooses to decline the inspection. And they check B, and then you also do the waiver of inspections form that I submit or gave to you, passed out.
You usually do an addendum when you do inspections. I think I usually do an addendum. Isn't there?
You're talking about the wages. Is it? Yeah, you're talking about the wages. Kimber already give us the wages.
Oh, just for about and septic.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
totally different.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different.
Is it, you do 5 to 7 for all 3 of the calendar and planning things, or?
5 to 7 for the first one, 3 to 5 usually for the second and third. I mean, if
So you keep the second period to the buyer a little bit wiggle room if you say 5. Okay.
Just depends. Again, this is it. There's no hard and fast rule on any of these. You know, you want to protect your buyer by accommodating their wishes. And you also want this to move along at a speed that is not unreasonable for a seller to want to accept and work with you. Some people put longer, some people put shorter. It's up to you.
Depends on the situation.
Approval of attorneys 5. This one is always 3. So that one's easy. I mean, it could be more, but I don't know why you would want it to be more. The more days that you are open for an attorney to review the file, the more time you have given the listing agent to get a better offer. So you want it to be as quick as possible. Let's get this in.
Getting is bad.
What? Oh, God, Jenny, what do you do?
Call my attorney, if my client really like the house, say, push it now.
Yeah, no, you should. No, that's fine. Yeah, you can't require both sides to have it
Oh,
in
no.
less than 3 days. No, you should.
I call my attorney
Yeah.
now.
It's not usually, it's usually the listing side that's waiting, but. Okay. 5. Nope, just kidding. 6. Additional property information. The buyer agrees. This kind of goes back, I think, to your washer question, Sandy, or something. Buyer agrees to purchase the property as is. No, just kidding. Sorry, take that back. I mean, yes, that's correct. But if checked, the seller shall cause any heating, plumbing, central air conditioning, all these things to be in working order, except this is where I was starting to talk about air conditioning once. I had the sellers disclosed that the central air conditioning wasn't working. Okay. So that's where, and they disclosed it on the MLS on the printout sheet. We knew it going in, and so I checked that and I said, except for central air conditioning. So if there's something that isn't working and everybody knows it, then you put that there. Otherwise, everything should be in working condition.
So it's the same, that whatever you wrote in the B section on the first page.
That's more like items. 6 is more like systems,
Oh, okay.
like mechanics. Like the heating, the plumbing, and the B is more like this fan has never worked, the ceiling fan. But you want to make sure that you check that. And if there's nothing wrong, then you put no exceptions. Because otherwise, if you don't check that and if something breaks, then the seller doesn't have to pay for it to be repaired at closing. Yeah. Next page, page 4, B. Seller has provided buyer with a property condition disclosure. This should be in the attachments of the MLS listing. Or it is not applicable as the property is exempt. So either you have it or you don't. In most cases, you will have it. Certificate of occupancy.
Okay, get back to that one. What happened if it's a normal sale? And they don't have the proper condition disclosure, do you have to call the listing agent or? Okay,
Yep. Just call a listing agent and say, hey, you can't find it.
okay.
And they'll say, oh my gosh, I forgot to upload it. Thanks for letting me know. So yeah, you just contact.
And exemptions would be in state, a new bill,
I think new builds actually have to have them.
they do.
How about trust?
I don't know. I can't. Probably not because a trust would be like an estate.
Okay.
Ask the attorney.
That's my favorite. What did that, that's the attorney.
No, I'm not an attorney.
Exactly.
What? I saw your license in the office.
Nope. Certificate of occupancy. Typically, this is not something for residential properties that we request. Because most residential properties don't have a certificate of occupancy because it's a residential property. However, if it's a duplex, if it's a converted space, I always feel like I'm on $100,000 pyramid at this point. What if it's a converted space like from a store to a home, let's say, or duplexes or significant um significant like reconstruction maybe, but most residential home, like I don't have a occupancy permit for my house, it's just a house.
Rental, right?
Yes.
Any rental,
Yep,
even if it's the same.
it should.
So rental properties.
Yeah. Cause those have to be registered.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might be town specific, but yes.
What are you putting a line for money? I don't know.
I usually put $100, but I don't. I've never used it. Zoning. Seller represents to buyer that the property is zoned for use as if this is a single family residence, then you put a single family residence. If it's a multi-unit, you put in multi-unit. E. Gas, mineral oil, and timber rights. Seller represents that all gas, mineral oil, and timber rights will transfer with the property except likely you're going to put no exceptions. You want your buyer to have any gas, mineral oil, and timber rights that the property allows.
That's in the MLS or the condition disclosure.
Gas, mineral oil, and timber rights.
Yeah.
It, if there was an exception. So I've seen, well, I haven't seen, I've heard of a property that had a ton of acreage and they allowed a Christmas tree farm to use like the last 5 acres or something to harvest Christmas trees. It sounds like it sounds like body parts, but to take Christmas trees or whatever. That would be then an exception on timber rights, which you would put, and that was written in the MLS. So then you would put, except 5 acres for timber rights provided to Kim's Christmas tree shop or whatever.
So there's nothing.
Yeah, that
Then you assume
put-
there's no.
correct. Yeah, it's usually I never saw that. That was just the example that was given to me once, but I've never seen that.
I have.
I mean, especially in rural areas with timber, it could be the case.
Natural gas too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, mine was a farm and he wanted to pick up his crap.
Mm.
So,
certainly could be, but it should be indicated.
yeah.
And if you're in a condo, that goes back.
It's not your land.
Yeah, it's not your land, you just don't. Own.
Services. Seller represents the property to be serviced by. So this is what kind of services are provided at the property. You likely have electric. You likely have gas. All of these things should be indicated on the second page. And kind of this middle section here. So the common ones are electric, gas, public sewer, public water. If it's septic, then you're gonna check septic. If there's well, then you'll check well. If there's propane, you check propane, right? Can all kind of see where I'm going. Yeah.
I've seen on some disclosures that it'll have in that section, it'll check like say septic system. Or then another section will talk about like, is it municipal, is it metered? And then if it says yes, I've noticed that like they check yes, but then also check other, but then leave it blank. I've seen, unless that's how it looks, I'll have to find you an example and send it
Yeah.
over, but I was more like curious as to why you would check something, but also check other and leave it blank.
I don't know.
Okay.
I would need to see the example, but. Yeah,
Back to the last one, you were talking about like farms and stuff, including in minerals. Don't usually farmers, they have turn like their whole season they to like harvest their crops, so would that be included in that, or do you just leave that out since that's such loose end?
I would check with the MLS to see what's written in the description. Oh,
The one that I have it was in the MLS. And
If
the
it-
printout.
it's hard to say, right? Because a lot of farmers will lease the land, but that's sometimes it's a actual lease, sometimes it's just a handshake lease, sometimes it's this is gonna be the last year we're gonna do this. It just depends on the people. So check the MLS to see. No, you can always call the listing agent and ask questions.
So in this example, do we put propane, because it says
Yep.
propane tank lease?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
And electric?
Yep. There's electric in the house. Mhm. So number 7 is the representation pertaining to Home Equity Theft Prevention Act. I think I have enough of these. And so what this says is that your buyer is going to be living there full time. This is their new residence. And if it isn't, that's fine, but you need to disclose that. And so this is an addendum. Because we want to know where people are living. More often than not, the buyer represents to seller as of date that they're moving into this property. More often than not, you're going to check off 7A. If this is a vacation home, if it's something like that, you may have, if it's Aaron's $3 million lake house, obviously you wouldn't live there full time because you have your $10 million one somewhere else. You know, they may not be moving in, the buyer may not be the spouse or relation of the seller, and the seller it may not be an estate or trust. And if that's the case, then you check D, and then you use that addendum that I just saw.
Okay. This is for D.
That's for D.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Eight, closing and possession. So within 48 hours before the time of closing, this gives the buyer permission to go in and do a final walkthrough. Closing date, the closing shall take place at, it is always indicated at the county clerk's office and the county that the home is listed in. It is never actually held there. Yep.
I have buyers who are downstate for my Auburn house and they're closing in Washington, New York or something today. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's.
So you always put the county that the home is located in, but your attorney will tell you where closing is taking place. My line about closing date in place, I would encourage you to use something similar or also helpful for people to understand. This is a target date. This is not a firm date. This is like a pregnancy due date. It may come early, it may come on, or it may come late. It's a target. So do not order moving trucks the day that you put your offer in. Because, like most babies, it's unlikely that this puppy's going to be delivered on the actual date.
So how many days out do you normally, right?
It's on or about. So typically depends on your lender and when you get mortgage commitment. You can also ask the listing agent if they already have ordered title and all of that stuff from New York State. If they have, you're likely to be able to close faster than if they have not ordered anything. I'm hearing 30 days is just not realistic anymore.
Even for cash?
Cash you probably can do, but it depends if they've ordered title and everything.
Slow down, yeah.
Sandy.
Is the lawyer giving you that target date? Who's giving
You
you this date?
You can ask the attorney. The
Are you supposed to just come up with a date that feels reasonable, or are you asking?
Yeah.
Or are you asking?
no, I mean,
Well, what are you asking?
so it's based on, you're not asking anyone, you're putting all of this together to make a decision on when you believe that you can close. So let's say that someone is getting a mortgage, getting financing, okay? And let's say this is the most unorganized buyer you've ever dealt with in your life. They can't seem to get anything together. And let's say they refuse to use someone local and they are requiring to use Rocket Mortgage. And let's say the seller, the listing agent, you've never been able to get on the phone with them. They've never responded to anything. And you have no idea about what's important to the seller or anything like that. I would probably put 60 days to closing. Because you know your buyer. Your buyer's not going to get the paperwork in quickly. You know all of those things. The tricky thing is, in a competitive situation, you're going to want to put the quickest close as possible, likely. Sometimes in the MLS, you will see seller prefers to close on or about September 1st or October 1st. You should aim for that date if possible. But again, these are flexible dates. If you're a cash buyer and you've called the listing agent and they say, we're ready to go, we're good. We've got everything. We already ordered all of our paperwork. We're good. And your cash person's like, we're good. And they waive all inspections. 21 days, 28 days. Be careful, make sure that you check the calendar though, because if there's any federal holidays, banks will be closed and that could cut things short. There's the end of the year is always a bit of a hot mess because there's so many federal holidays where banks are closed due to holidays. And so that's going to shorten your time frame because these are business days. You can only close on a business day. I think a lot of listing agents still want to see around 30 days in there. I think 45 days is more realistic though. Probably pushing out to 60 days in some cases. If that's the case, I would put 45 days and I would probably say to the listing agent, we would love to close earlier. I just know I've heard issues with title in the state, and so that's why I wanted to give a buffer, but we would love to close earlier. Or maybe you can't close earlier. Possession of property, you are almost always going to check number 1. Buyer shall have possession of the property upon closing in broom clean condition with all keys to the property delivered to the buyer at closing. This is typically what you're gonna do. In my opinion, if you have someone who is requesting early possession or sellers who are requesting post possession, in my opinion, I would encourage you to negotiate that after you have the accepted contract. If a seller requests post possession and says that in the contract, you can certainly put that in. You're gonna want to there's just a couple extra steps if they do that, right? If they're staying in the property but your buyer owns it, what happens if there's a problem with the property? Are you collecting a deposit? Are you all those kinds of things? In my opinion, if your buyer wants to move in early but doesn't have to move in early, that should all be negotiated after you have an accepted contract.
What would an example of like a seller staying in after be like they haven't found a house that they wanted to buy or something like that?
You could choose to close early, in that case, and rent it out to the seller. I would want to, if they are looking for housing of their own, if that's the case, then you likely have set a deadline as to when they need to be under contract. It's not just this free for all of they have the next 6 to 9 months to look for something, right? But that could be a situation.
But who's determining the price of rent back?
You are.
The agent?
The client.
The buyers.
The client.
Eternity.
Or the
No,
buyers say how much they want?
So if
you're.
you're,
Picking it up, I don't.
Yeah, buyers, their house.
yeah, I mean, it's,
If they're turning into the land.
Yeah.
They're the buyers, I'm putting it
buy-
down, but the buyers are saying I want. house.
yeah, but they're gonna need to, they're probably gonna wanna talk to you to get some ideas on what would be reasonable for them, yeah. In very competitive situations, it's not uncommon to see, if there's post possession for the sellers to stay, that's free. Cause you wanna be competitive. And so if the seller can save $1,000 by going with your offer versus having to pay for 10 days after in a house at $100 a day for the other offer, why wouldn't they take yours?
Why wouldn't you just delay closing because they want those funds available for them to move again?
It could be that. A rate lock could be expiring for your buyer, so you may need to close if that's the case. If I'm a buyer, I'm actually either way, I'm always wanting it to be over sooner than it is. You never know what could happen. And so
This seems risky to be renting to people that
it is.
already owned it and they feel like they still own it.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
People could list it now because they know it's best to list it in the summer. And they'll get top dollar and then, but they're actually not moving. They can't close on their new build until September 1st. So then it turns into a negotiation. Do we want to push closing out? Or do we want to do a post possession?
Yeah, that's probably my brother, because he had to wait for his new build paperwork and all that.
So it just depends. Now, if they have something under contract and you feel confident about it and all those things, but that's why you're worth 3%.
Yeah, you are.
stop charging 1%.
It wasn't her. Okay, moving on to page 5. Fortunately, there's not a lot here to discuss. 9 is all title. That's all legalese. 10, we want to make sure that that box is checked for number 1. So that says that you, as the agent, are the one who has brought the purchase. More legal stuff. Then H would be addenda. So with a situation like this, you're gonna have a well and septic system addendum because it's on septic. There's one other one that you're definitely gonna want to have. Anyone know what it is?
You need the lead, the escalation.
Possibly, depending on what your offer is.
You can write it properly.
So glad.
Lead is one. Yep, there's one other.
Personal property. Let's see. FHA, if you're doing FHA or VA.
Is it the ag?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a farm. There's 2 barns, it's 2.35 acres in the middle of East Bloomfield. Guess what's right behind that? Big farm that smells like poop. So you're gonna wanna make sure that there's an agriculture, district, which there's already in one in the attachments. You don't have to add that, you just have to sign it and include it.
Oh, shouldn't be.
Where is that?
Oh, okay, this electrical.
Yep,
Is it?
It's not.
it's a catch-all. Because I know some of you love a good checklist. Here's another checklist that I have. Once I'm under contract, what I do, I think you have this at some point, but what I do is I go through and I write down the dates that I put in the contract so that I don't have to keep going back and forth. And so that I can just see what those dates are and keep everything straight. In the other terms, number 11, really, really, really important. This is where you're going to put wording about you getting paid. Because I don't think any of us are doing this as volunteers. If it is a Keller Williams listing agent, then you write the first one. If it is a non-Keller Williams listing agent, then you write the second one. Where it says indicate, you indicate. It's either gross or net. Something that is common in this time that we're in is something called an escalation clause. You can tell me what an escalation clause is.
If there's if there's like a competing offer, then you say I'll increase my price by increments, certain increments that they're comfortable with up to the total amount that they're willing to pay. That's your client.
It provides a ceiling to how much your buyer will pay in a competing offer situation. The challenge is when you provide this figure, you're showing your cards. and you're showing the ceiling that your buyer will pay in this situation. And if your buyer really, really, really wants this house and has said they would go up to 400,000 and has shown proof of funds for 400,000, and let's say the highest offer is 380, but I know you can go up to 400, as a listing agent, I could say, well, this is where we are. I don't have one that triggers the escalation up to 400. However, I will counter offer 400 for the purchase price because I know you're good for it. So if you want it, you can pay 400.
So the seller agent can tell their client, this offer is willing to go up to this much.
Yep, you can give the ceiling.
I mean, you have to.
Hmm.
You have to dispose on that, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm confused because I'm here is that the seller shall provide documentation,
Yep.
so.
Well, but when you submit an offer, you want to provide documentation, proof of that offer, proof that you can pay it.
Mhm.
I wouldn't accept a purchase offer with an escalation clause that doesn't go up to what the escalation clause says.
So then you're providing what they're,
Yeah, but it's a competitive, I'm sorry, competitive offer.
Yep, that's what it says. And I'm not saying that this is triggered by a competitive offer.
Okay,
I've told you, my highest one is 380, but I see that you can go up to 400. My
okay,
seller would like 400.
so I can say, no, we're.
Sure,
where we
you
are.
absolutely can. Yep. You're not required to pay that.
Okay,
You're not required to take the counter. However, if this is the house that your buyers have always dreamed of,
so talk to you
and
about it first.
they've already decided, I'll go to 400, do
Mhm.
they care?
Okay.
Sometimes.
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Okay.
But if you're a listing agent advocating for the best offer for your seller,
Got it.
So if you have a buyer, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, would you recommend to use it or not to use it? Like, if you wanna look competitive, don't use it, if you do want, you know what I mean, like.
what I say is, this is your ceiling, so you need to be comfortable paying this top amount. And if you're comfortable paying it, then let's do it. I think depending on where you are, depending on the property, not doing an escalation clause will not make you competitive. I think most places are still, almost all offers are using an escalation clause.
Say
I mean-
I just wanted to know like how to advise if they ask
I
like, well,
think
should I not?
I think it is the safest way to be competitive without offering more unnecessarily.
So they're probably, that's probably good to do for delayed negotiation.
Yes.
And then also. If it's a mortgage. And so in the financing part, you write what they're approved for. Not, you have to write the maximum that they were approved for anywhere, or just what they're offer on the house.
You're submitting their pre-approval
So they
letter.
already see it anyway.
Yes.
So if they wanna do an escalation clause. Well, if they're only set to their pre-approval, they can't really do one unless they have like extra cash.
If the offer is already their maximum, then yeah, you
Yeah.
can't.
But if they had like some cash or something, they could, like submit this with like a proof of funds, or extra proof of funds or something, or no? Not,
You would,
just depends on the situation.
you would talk to your lender about that because you would typically just get approved for more. If you have additional funds that you didn't disclose to your lender.
I guess the escalation clause just confuses me if you are doing like with them, and they already know your max approval.
So if I'm doing a mortgage, let's say let's say I have talked to Premium and I have a pre-approval letter dependent on taxes up to 400,000. And I see this property and it's listed at 300 and I say, okay, well, I'm willing to go, I wanna put an offer in at 300, cause that's what the list price says, I don't wanna pay more if I don't have to. But I'm willing to go to 360.
Okay.
It would be like a situation like that. If you're only approved for 300 and the house is 300 and your offer is 300, then there's no wiggle room. You can't, there's no price. There's no escalation clause. You can't.
No,
Yeah.
Or they could have cash to make up the appraisal difference.
But
And that would be in other terms.
you would do an appraisal gap. You would say that you have the cash for an appraisal gap. I would do a addendum for that.
So, well, can we go over the form, cause it's a little confusing, it's the.
Which form?
The purchase offer.
Yep.
Okay, in the event of a complete offer, Spire will pay, and then there's blank dollars. And then there's another line, just with dollar sign, it's,
Yep, so one are digits, one are words.
oh, we're spelling out.
Yep.
Spelling out literally the word.
Yep.
100 versus.
Yep, so again, so there's complete clarity. So in the event of a
I see.
competing
Okay.
offer, buyer will pay TENTHOUSAND dollars,
Oh, okay, that was.
dollar sign 10,000,000.
Okay,
Like right much.
too confusing, but I
Yeah,
get it.
yes, exactly, Erin. Thank you.
And Bob double checks all of our contracts, doesn't he?
Yep.
Thank you for the second.
And then technically, if they do escalate you, they should be able to present the offer that they escalated off of.
Yes,
as proof,
yes. Yes,
because not every agent is as ethical as we are.
yes. They may need to be asked, but
Right.
they should provide it.
Yes.
And it is fine for them to cross out buyer's name or those kinds of things if they probably should cross that off for confidentiality. But yes, they should. Yep, it's saying that we want proof. You can't just say, oh yeah, I've got something. It's going real high. Real high.
The offer expires, I don't know if I'm skipping how I was read, but.
It depends on what's requested by the listing agent. Typically, they'll request 24 hours.
24.
Typically, 24 hours.
I wouldn't say.
Yep, sometimes, especially if it's an estate, it might be 48 hours. If they don't request anything and if there's no delayed negotiations, well, I'm not a good person to talk to about that because I always want to protect my buyer, so I'm gonna give a really small window because I don't want any other offers to come in.
So whether it's like negotiation or not, you should do like 24 hours.
If it's not delayed negotiations, I would consider doing less than that.
Okay.
I would not consider, it all depends, right? I would not consider doing less if you're writing and submitting an offer at 7 p.m. If you're submitting an offer at 7 p.m. and you say 12 hours, people are sleeping, right? Like that's not very reasonable. If you're submitting an offer at 7 a.m. and there's no delayed negotiations, why would you want to give the seller more time to find a better offer? I wouldn't. So if I submit at 7 a.m., I will probably say 12 hours life of offer.
Where do you put the life of offer?
It's right in the contract.
Yeah.
Number 12.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Questions? the more of these classes you come to, the more confident you will be. Right, Sandy?
Yeah. For sure.
Any questions for me? Yes.
Never done this. How hard is it? Pick up the phone and actually expect you're gonna be able to speak to the attorney. Do you usually do
The
that?
attorney?
Well, like in a situation, are they acceptable? Are they?
Depends on your attorney.
I know it's usually like, it's general question, everyone's different.
I don't, so you get to pick who you want on your team.
Yeah, are they pretty?
It totally depends on the attorney. My attorneys, they will answer that. That's why they're on my team. That's why I give them business. Who are you referring business to? Are you gonna refer business to someone who's not gonna answer the phone? Now, now my phone's gone off 100 times in the last 3 hours and I haven't answered it. Does that mean I'm a jerk and I don't care about people? No, it means I was busy, right? Attorneys may be busy, but I would want someone to be able to get back to me in a reasonable amount of time.
So, I think it's better to email an attorney because they have a lot of other files going on and they wanna have that to refer to. So it's better if you email.
Yeah, it depends on the question, but yes, yes,
He will answer emails at like 3 AM.
yes, he's not.
That he sleeps, but.
Yeah, he doesn't.
It's like, he just approved my contract, it's 4 AM, is he still up or did he just get up, you know?
You
Like-
never know with him.
He's still up.
He's still up?
Do we have a list somewhere of like recommended